Look at this giant tower piercing the Dubai Marina skyline. Standing 352 meters tall, it was proudly launched in 2011 as the world's tallest residential building. But it carries a terrifying nickname, the Torch. It did not earn that name from its architecture but from reality. In 2015, a single stray balcony ember hit the facade, and within minutes, a massive river of fire raced 86 stories straight into the sky. 2 years later, while still undergoing repairs, a discarded cigarette sparked the exact same nightmare all over again. Someone thought this plastic-wrapped supertall was the future, but they engineered an 86-story vertical furnace. Now, the owners are completely trapped. They cannot tear it down, they cannot easily insure it, and every temporary fix has made the safety nightmare clearer. You are looking directly at a massive million-dollar trap that permanently refuses to disappear from the skyline. Glide past the multi-billion-dollar yachts, the sun-drenched boardwalks, and the shimmering glass monoliths that define the ultra-wealthy Dubai Marina. From a distance, this 352-meter residential giant blends seamlessly into the background of elite real estate. It looks like a premium symbol of structural triumph. But pull the camera closer, and the illusion shatters. What you are actually looking at is a monument to deep structural anxiety. Look at the fenced balconies, the severe and heavily enforced rules against outdoor grilling, and the palpable tension felt by every resident who looks up at the exterior panels. This is not an abstract urban planning essay, and it is definitely not a celebratory architectural critique. This building is physical evidence of a massive engineering and real estate shortcut. Someone pointed at this blueprint, stamped it with approval, and marketed it as the absolute pinnacle of luxury living. In reality, they effectively engineered a giant wick waiting for a match. The numbers attached to this structure do not just tell a story, they build a case. Standing 86 stories above the ground, the tower contains 676 luxury apartments. That represents hundreds of families and investors whose life savings are now trapped in a complex legal and physical safety crosshair. This is a structure that has been torn through or ignited by 3 separate fires in under a decade, specifically in 2015, 2017, and 2019. The estimated damages and baseline remediation costs have blown past $21 million, sparked endless corporate warfare, and remain bitterly contested across global insurance networks. It was explicitly designed to be the crown jewel of elite high-rise living. Instead, it transformed into a structure too hazardous to leave unchanged, too massive to tear down, and too financially radioactive for standard global insurance markets to touch without demanding astronomical premiums. To understand how a multi-million-dollar asset becomes a liability, you have to look beneath the polished marketing and examine the original sin of its construction. The mistake here was not the ambition to build the world's tallest residential tower. The mistake was a deliberate material compromise. The builders wrapped the entire exterior of an 86-story supertall in a highly flammable plastic sandwich to save on material costs, operating under the fatal assumption that a stray spark would never test the skin. You do not need an engineering degree to understand what went wrong here. You just have to look at the economic logic of Dubai's mid-2000s real estate boom. This was an era of hyper-accelerated growth where speed, height, and jaw-dropping visual prestige were prioritized above long-term material testing. When the plans for the tower were drawn up, developers were racing against time and competing against rival projects to capture global investment capital. Every week carved off a construction schedule meant millions saved. Every discount on bulk materials meant higher profit margins upon handover. During this frantic gold rush, contractors legally selected cheap, highly combustible thermoplastic core aluminum composite panels, commonly known as ACPs, for the exterior cladding. They did this just 2 years before updated safety codes outlawed them entirely. At the time, the building regulations were a patchwork of outdated standards that had not kept pace with the sheer verticality of the city's ambitions. The material was cheap, it was lightweight, it was incredibly easy to install, and it perfectly mimicked the sleek, metallic aesthetic demanded by high-end buyers. The developers were not breaking the law, they were exploiting a massive regulatory lag. They built a structure that met the exact letter of a flawed code while ignoring the physical reality of what happens when you stack flammable materials hundreds of meters into the air. To truly comprehend the mechanical trap built into the facade, you have to look closely at the physical makeup of these early aluminum composite materials. Picture a literal plastic sandwich. You have two incredibly thin sheets of architectural aluminum, and pressed tightly between them is a solid core of low-density polyethylene plastic. Polyethylene is an excellent binder and an effective insulator, but it is also a petroleum product. It is essentially solidified fuel. Under normal conditions, the outer aluminum layers protect the core from the elements. But aluminum is a highly efficient conductor of heat. If an external fire breaks out on a balcony, the aluminum sheets rapidly absorb and transfer that heat directly to the plastic inside. Once the internal core hits its melting point, the aluminum skin delaminates. The liquid plastic liquefies, ignites, and begins to pour down the side of the building in burning droplets, while simultaneously feeding an upward column of pure flame. This exact material vulnerability turned a localized accident into an international horror story on the night of February 21, 2015. It was around 2 in the morning when a minor, localized fire broke out on an upper-floor balcony, reportedly ignited by a stray ember. In a properly insulated building, an isolated balcony fire is a manageable emergency. It burns itself out or is contained by local automated systems. But the moment the flames breached the exterior window and touched the cladding, the building's outer skin became a self-feeding vertical fuel line. High desert winds caught the flames, and within minutes, a massive, roaring river of fire was racing up the exterior facade, swallowing entire floors in seconds. The burning polyethylene melted and cascaded downward, igniting secondary fires on the lower balconies. From the street below, horrified onlookers watched a 352-meter monolith transform into a literal vertical furnace. You would think that surviving a catastrophic inferno of that scale would trigger immediate, total remediation. That is where the trap gets worse. The building became locked in a state of administrative and financial paralysis. Because the tower was completed in May 2011, just over a year before the United Arab Emirates completely overhauled its fire and life safety code in late 2012, the developer had already legally handed the entire structure over to the individual unit owners and the homeowners association. The developer walked away with their profits, entirely insulated from future liabilities by the legal timeline. The multi-million-dollar burden of fixing a systemic construction shortcut was instantly transferred to everyday individual apartment owners. While the Homeowners Association spent months arguing with insurance conglomerates over who would foot the bill for a total exterior strip down, the building sat exposed, partially covered in ruined, half-melted panels and temporary patches. Then came August 2017. In a twist of pure administrative irony, while contractors were actively on site working on repairing and replacing the panels damaged from the 2015 disaster, a secondary fire broke out. A discarded cigarette hit the unstable exterior facade, and the exact same Groundhog Day nightmare played out all over again. The fire tore up the exterior skin, ripping through the remaining original cladding and turning the construction scaffolding into an elevated bonfire. This second disaster completely blew past the standard explanations of bad luck. It exposed a brutal engineering paradox that completely flips what the public thinks they know about high-rise disasters. If you ask the average person looking at images of the tower engulfed in flames, they will tell you that the building is a poorly constructed, unstable death trap whose internal emergency systems collapsed under catastrophic corruption. But look at the actual investigative data, and the facts reveal a completely different reality. The building's internal fire containment design, its highly pressurized concrete escape shafts, and its heavy interior sprinkler networks worked absolutely perfectly to code. During both the midnight evacuations of 2015 and 2017, hundreds of residents successfully walked down the internal stairwells to safety. Not a single life was lost inside the building. This is the internal paradox that changes the entire nature of the story. The building is completely safe on the inside, yet utterly volatile on the outside. The concrete skeleton and the interior apartments are engineering triumphs, but they are wrapped in an architectural skin that acts as an active existential threat to anyone standing on the balconies or walking on the streets below. The battle for survival isn't happening in the living rooms, it is a war over the exterior cladding. This leaves the viewer and the residents staring at a baffling engineering question. How do you safely strip and replace an outer skin that is structurally bonded to an inhabited, fully occupied 86-story supertall without forcing hundreds of families into permanent homelessness or completely bankrupting the people who live there? As the crisis deepened, the sheer danger of the situation forced local emergency services to consider extreme, borderline sci-fi tactical responses. Dubai Civil Defense began publicly researching and testing the use of single-person jetpacks and advanced aerial drones for firefighters. The logic was clear. When a fire moves vertically up an external skin faster than an emergency elevator can ascend, traditional firefighting methods are rendered completely obsolete. You cannot fight a 352-meter external fuel line from a fire truck ladder on the asphalt below. But think about the psychological weight of that reality for a moment. If a residential building's fundamental material design requires firefighters to deploy sci-fi jetpacks just to defend its outer walls, the structure has moved past the realm of standard real estate. It has become fundamentally too dangerous to inhabit without constant, state-level military-grade vigilance. By the time the calendar turned to 2019, the financial trapdoor slammed completely shut. Actuaries and global insurance firms began auditing high-rises across the entire Dubai Marina, aggressively blacklisting older towers that featured high concentrations of non-rated thermoplastic foam cladding. If a building possessed a facade made of over 50% non-rated ACM panels, underwriters categorized it as an unmanageable, uninsurable risk. Virtually overnight, insurance premiums skyrocketed to astronomical levels. This triggered an immediate, devastating economic domino effect for the individual unit owners. Because global banks refused to issue mortgages or back refinancing loans on uninsurable structures, the luxury apartments inside the tower became almost completely unsellable. Owners who bought into the dream of elite high-rise living found their life savings tied to a toxic, radioactive acid. They were trapped in an inescapable loop. If they chose to do nothing, their property values dropped to zero and they remained exposed to the next passing spark. If they chose to fix it, the Homeowners Association had to hit every individual resident with massive, out-of-pocket special assessments running into tens of thousands of dollars per unit to fund an exterior remediation project that was originally necessitated by a developer's pre-code shortcut. Just as the community was grappling with the financial ruins of these insurance audits, the building delivered a third, definitive warning shot. In 2019, a minor, isolated fire ignited inside a fifth-floor gym. Thanks to rapid internal response and updated civil safety measures, the fire was quickly contained before it could break out onto the exterior skin. But the event sent a shockwave of adrenaline through the entire complex. It proved with absolute mathematical certainty that even with extreme human vigilance, a building housing hundreds of occupants across 676 separate units cannot prevent every single instance of human error. A forgotten toaster, an electrical short in an appliance, or a single careless moment inside a room will constantly threaten to breach a window and reignite the exterior facade. The threat was not a historical event, it was a permanent, ongoing condition of the structure's existence. You might look at this tower today and think the answer is simple. Why not just pass a law, mandate the immediate removal of every single square meter of the original material, and force a rapid structural overhaul? But that is where the late-stage impossible choice reveals itself. The mathematical reality of super-tall remediation defies simple legal orders. You cannot easily demolish an 86-story occupied tower sitting in the absolute densest, most expensive section of a major global metropolis. Implosion would destroy the surrounding multi-billion-dollar infrastructure, and piece-by-piece disassembly would take years and cost more than the building is structurally worth. Selling the entire building to a single private buyer is equally unrealistic because no sane investment fund is going to willingly purchase a multi-million-dollar legacy liability wrapped in unresolved insurance lawsuits. Public funding to bail out private luxury apartment owners is deeply unpopular and politically unfeasible. Every single proposed rescue plan, from converting sections into specialized hotel spaces to attempting mass ownership transfers, has consistently stalled under the crushing weight of legal bureaucracy and remediation costs. The owners cannot move forward, they cannot look away, and they cannot escape the bill. Today, the tower still stands as an unresolved monument, heavily retrofitted, strictly monitored by advanced thermal cameras, and operating under a regime of permanent hypervigilance. The exterior has been heavily patched and continuously worked on, but its history cannot be unwritten. It remains a physical manifestation of a citywide legacy issue, a 352-meter warning sign permanently etched into one of the most famous skylines on Earth. It stands as a stark reminder that creating a towering landmark of architectural ambition is incredibly easy, but removing or fixing a fundamental material shortcut is a multi-million-dollar nightmare that can last for decades. The real failure here was not a collapse of structural engineering or a failure of human bravery during an emergency. The real failure was the arrogant assumption that the cheapest material choice would remain cheap forever, and that the world around it would never change its codes.